The whole beginning of this interview was absolutely ridiculous, and it makes me a little bit crazy. What's up, YouTube? Back with another banger, back with another reaction video, and the jokes just write themselves. Hello, Nathan here from Measured Light, and welcome back for another climate news reaction video. Maybe you're asking yourself, what is a climate news reaction video? And the answer is, I still don't know, but I've made a few of them, so check them out there in the links, or there in the links. There will be links. Click on the links, and watch them. If you're into this kind of stuff, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and tell the YouTube robots to do their thing. This week's gonna be a good one. We're gonna be talking about some Tucker Carlson, which always makes me wanna pull my hair out, always great. And we're gonna follow it up by learning about Joaquin Phoenix, who I know is a climate activist, but I don't know that much about him. And we're gonna wrap it up with some Bill Nye the Science Guy, always fun times. Really looking forward to it. Let's get into some reactions. All right, straight into it. We're gonna watch some Tucker Carlson on Fox News talking about climate change. This video is a couple years old, so I'm not exactly sure what it's about, but I've been really interested in seeing the ways that they talk about climate change on conservative news, and so let's see what they're saying in this one.
The campaign against global warming seems to have gone bust. It started as an effort to protect the environment. It is not that anymore. UC Berkeley visiting scholar Stephen Hayward just wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal detailing how the movement has been hijacked by obsessions with race and gender. Worries about carbon and rising sea levels have turned into speeches about fighting misogyny and so-called climate justice, whatever that is. Stephen Hayward joins us tonight.
Oh, God. Okay, well, let's just stop right before this guy even gets a chance to talk. Let's just stop and say, look, I don't know that much about Tucker Carlson as a human, but I suspect that he's pretty smart, and I definitely think he understands what climate justice is, and I don't think that he thinks that equality exists in the United States. No matter what he says on his show, I almost wonder sometimes if this isn't like a caricature, that he isn't playing it up so big to increase the stupidity. Remember, this video is a couple years old and in the heat of the Trump era, so it might be that he's also playing up to his base there. Okay, let's see what this guy from Berkeley, which I would think would be very liberal, has to say.
Explain. Professor, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Tucker. Isn't it amazing how everything seems to get reduced to race and justice these days?
Well, yeah, but it's especially amazing when topics that have no conceivable connection to race and gender get pulled.
Okay, yeah, so here comes the hair pulling. So he's saying that there's no conceivable connection between race and gender and environmental justice. I just don't know where they come up with this stuff. Yes, he is equally impacted by climate as, other people in other parts of the world. People around the equator, people in the hottest places in the world, people who actually have to go outside to do their jobs. I don't know how they wake up and get on TV and think that this is a good idea to talk like this.
Dan, how did that happen?
Well, I mean, the whole point of the article was fairly simple. Most issues go through these long wave cycles. There's lots of early interest. The press gets onto it. Flurry of political activity. Some policies are made. Then we start having consideration of trade-offs. And that's been going on with global warming for several years now. It's really expensive to do what a lot of the climatistas, as I call them, want us to do. And so now that you're seeing more and more expressions, including in the Paris Climate Accord, that we need to consider gender equality and climate justice, that's a sign that the issue has, as the cliche goes, jumped the shark. And no, it's kind of at the end of its string. And public opinion surveys here.
Okay, so I don't know what he's talking about exactly, but what I can tell you is that there isn't a climate argument happening here. So this person, who is some kind of academic, wrote this piece in the Wall Street Journal, but it doesn't appear that it's about climate change. He's basically talking about media cycles. Maybe I'm wrong, leave comments and let me know. But I think what he's saying is like, the media cycle that is involved with the way that climate change is maturing and the way that we talk about it in the media has changed or morphed in such a way that it doesn't support the original arguments, and that maybe the arguments have actually matured and they've changed as we learn more about science, or we learn more about impacts, or we learn more about the communities that are most impacted by the different issues and different consequences of climate change. Ooh, how about that? I mean, this idea of updating our knowledge is not a new one. I'm surprised that this is something that we think of as a problem. But I do hear that he's making this argument about like, there's these media cycles, and as media cycles change, they add things on and they want to re-spark something or whatever. So maybe that's what he's getting at. Okay, yeah, leave comments and tell me more. Tell me what I'm missing.
Here and in Europe show declining public interest in the whole darn thing.
Well, it's a boutique issue for rich people, obviously, but it's also a little confusing.
It's a boutique issue for rich people.
Even if you think that
that's him, it's an issue for him.
Is real, or even if you can explain what it is, I've never met anyone who can, or if you think that gender equality is an important part of this.
Wait, did he just say he's never had anybody able to explain to him what kind of like the idea of climate justice is? He doesn't understand this concept. Like, again, this is where I wonder, like, it's got to be a caricature. It's got to be, I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm going to rewind it for just a second, actually. Let's go back. I just want to make sure I heard what he said.
Well, it's a boutique issue for rich people, obviously, but it's also a little confusing. I mean, even if you think that climate justice is real, or even if you can explain what it is, I've never met anyone who can, or if you think that gender equality is an important part of this, what does that have to do with science? That's not science.
Well, look, this guy isn't talking about science. And look, Tucker Carlson, if you need somebody to help explain these issues to you, I know people. I can use the internet. I can internet to people who can explain these issues to you. That's not a joke. So, look, I think, again, this is a little wacky. I don't know. I think that this is like so over the top. But, it seems to me that they're trying to really talk about this other issue and get away. So right now he's saying it's not about science. Well, this whole argument, this whole conversation is not about science. So why all of a sudden is he bringing in science?
Is it?
No, not at all. I mean, and that was one of the things I said in the article is look, I'm not questioning any of what is called the consensus about climate science. Right. I'm just saying as a political and policy matter, this has run its course.
Okay, so he's confessing it here.
You ought to see my Twitter feed blow up yesterday and today. Apparently, it's not enough to call someone a climate denier anymore when you dissent from climate orthodoxy. I'm getting called a white male supremacist, which is a really a good sign that you've run out of arguments about the issue.
Or maybe you're a white male supremacist.
Itself.
Well, yeah, I mean, that doesn't even approach being an argument. It's a primal scream. Wait, you're at Berkeley. How were you allowed to say this at Berkeley? What are you doing there? And good for you for being there, by the way.
Well, yeah, I'm like that Civil War era general who said I'd like to fight surrounded. I think that might have been General Custer, though. I'm not sure. Look, two things.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that General Custer killed a bunch of Native Americans. So then one of them makes a joke about this guy, and then the other one thinks it's really funny. This is great TV.
And maybe be encouraged by a little bit. One is that we ought to make a distinction in all our universities these days between old-fashioned liberals who've dominated universities for decades. That's not a new story. Right. But increasingly, the universities are being dominated by a much more radical, progressive left that, as we know, often turn to violence to get their way. And a lot of the old-fashioned liberals understand that this is a crisis for the universities. And a lot of them are starting to say, and this is, here I think you want to give props to the administration and many academics at Berkeley who said, we have a problem and we need to have some more conservative voices on our faculty and on our campus. And so they reached out to me a couple years ago and invited me to come, and I'm glad to be there. I'm having a great time. And I get along with most of the liberals on the campus just fine, and the radicals won't engage me at all.
Well, I think that's important to make the distinction. I mean, if liberalism is a concern for civil liberties, a commitment to free speech, a belief in actual diversity, then I'm a liberal and proud to be one. But there aren't many left. I'm glad you found some.
That's so really ridiculous.
Professor, thank you. It was a great piece.
No. Okay. Well, that was really interesting. I definitely had not seen this video before. Very interesting. I don't know about this piece, so maybe I will try to find the piece and link it below. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the overall approach is one that, I'm open to well-rounded conversations. I'm open to people understanding science. In fact, this whole channel came into existence because I'm thinking about how we all use our expertise, our experience to bring to climate change and the battle against climate change in a really meaningful way. So I'm personally interested in and invested in what they're talking about here at the end, and thinking about how you come to communities and how you engage with communities with your ideas. But with the beginning of this, the whole beginning of this interview was absolutely ridiculous, and it makes me a little bit crazy. So with that, let's get into the next one. Let's lighten it up just a little bit, and we're gonna learn about Joaquin Phoenix's interest in climate change, I believe. So let's get into this and find out what Hollywood has to say.
It was a night when the red carpet turned a shade of green. Some stars re-wore or recycled their red carpet outfits as part of Hollywood's effort to be more eco-friendly. So that's the fashion.
5 out of 500.
So this year we let out cream and butter, and we use different things.
While other awards ceremonies dished up entirely plant-based meals, Wolfgang Puck, the Oscars celebrity chef, served a good choice of vegan food, but didn't go the whole hog.
Is it a bit of a challenge to think differently?
Didn't go
about
the whole
vegan
hog,
food?
love it.
It's very
Talking about
fashionable
vegan
at the
food and
moment.
use hog
It's
references.
fashionable for 1% of the population, for sure. You know, most of the people at home, if they want a real meat, they want a steak or chicken or pork roast or whatever.
Not ideal for animal rights activists.
Okay, so Wolfgang Puck basically said, I'm not a true believer. I don't really have that much interest in this. I'm just doing this because I'm told to. I also find it weird that they chose to do the piece with him instead of with one of the chefs who actually did vegan meals. Okay, so here's Joaquin Phoenix. Let's find out what they're talking about with him.
This and Best Actor winner Joaquin Phoenix. He accepted his Oscar wearing the same recycled Stella McCartney suit he's worn all award season.
So the big sacrifice is that he wore the same suit all season? Okay.
A few days before, the actor joined hundreds of people on the streets of Los Angeles to campaign against climate change alongside his friend Jane Fonda. The 82-year-old's been arrested 5 times.
Jane Fonda is
legit.
legit. She's out there doing work.
This is the front line of the climate crisis.
While more people are now talking about environmentalism, Debbie Levin's been trying to get Hollywood studios to buy into sustainability for over 20 years.
They all have sustainability departments now, which there was like one person in 2 or 3 studios when we started, and now they've got teams. I think they really have the intent to be the leaders of industry.
And it has to start today.
All of these are small steps in the right direction, but these young activists want more than small steps. They're demanding a complete change of consciousness, and they want...
Oh, that's interesting. So this is an Extinction Rebellion event. So this is some kind of action that's taking place that Extinction Rebellion is organizing, I guess, in Los Angeles, and they captured this footage of that. I don't think they mentioned that here, but I'll link to Extinction Rebellion in the comments below.
Climate crisis to become Hollywood's most urgent narrative, both on screen and off. Ruth Liptrot, 5 News, in Hollywood.
Okay, that was interesting. Not too much about Joaquin Phoenix, actually. A little bit more about, I guess that video was made during Oscar season or something, but still pretty interesting. And I think that I think it's really interesting to learn about these different industries and how they think about sustainability, or having sustainability managers in those different industries is really cool. Okay, last video today, we're gonna get into some Bill Nye the Science Guy. I always liked Bill Nye the Science Guy. Growing up, I liked Bill Nye the Science Guy. And over the last couple of years, he's become like a pretty vocal climate denier activist. He's basically out there fighting on the front lines on the internet of climate denialism. And so I think that that's really interesting. And I don't know what this video is. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen this video, but I'm interested to see what he's talking about here. I always find him to be a relatively engaged and enlightened person. So I'm curious to see what they say.
In order to have billions of people living on a planet that used to support fewer than a billion, you got to be able to have more sophisticated agriculture, more sophisticated shelter, housing. And that
So boom, right off the bat, agriculture, housing, community. When I think about the built environment, one of the things I talk about on my channel a bit is that the built environment in the United States is responsible to up to 40% of carbon emissions. All of the different things, energy, building materials, keeping them up and running, all of these different things really create a massive impact on the United States. And so right off the bat, he's saying we have to think about how we're going to feed all of these people, how we're going to house and work and have spaces for working with all of these people. It's really a strong point, boom, boom, boom. And we're 13 seconds in. So, all right, let's get back in there.
all comes from science. It comes from engineering, the process by which we know nature.
No, to my point, climate denialism.
Do people ever treat you with hostility?
Do they ever greet me with hostility? Yes, it's nothing but hostility. The big one is Bill Nye's not a scientist.
Okay, so Bill Nye is not a scientist. I am also not a scientist, but I'm really, really committed to learning more about climate change and about how we change our behaviors to, impact the global warming that is really going to impact the entire Earth, impact everybody. And so, right, yeah, he's not a scientist. He's not a scientist. I don't know exactly what that means. I think he has an engineering background. I read something about Bill Nye a long time ago. But so yeah, he's not a scientist, but most of us are not scientists. Most of us are not climate scientists, and yet we're still going to play some role. We're still going to have to invest our money in companies who are thinking about the environment. And I think that that's one of the biggest ways that we can impact, everything that's happening is where we put our money really tells companies how to behave and who we want to support.
Okay. I can read a graph.
Okay, I'm rewinding it. I'm going to back it up for just a second.
Yes, it's nothing but hostility.
Nothing but hostility.
The big one is Bill Nye's not a scientist. Okay. I can read a graph, so can you.
I can read a graph.
To have people in the United States denying science, the same country that sent people to the moon, for crying out loud. You look for reasonable explanations, cause and effect.
Bill Nye is such a boss.
I'm just not clear on what's going on with so aggressively denying science. It's almost like they're on the world is flat camp. The world's not flat. Humans are causing climate change. Pretending it's not happening is not in anyone's best.
The world is not flat. And pretending that humans didn't create climate change is ridiculous. Look, I think that saying the world is flat is a kind of a weak argument sometimes because it's so extreme that most people know the world is not flat. And there's a very small portion of climate deniers who think that the world is flat. I mean, it's probably almost none. I mean, we can look and find out. But I think that it's like really crazy to think like, oh, we want to associate those things. But that's how it comes off, I guess, if you're a scientist and you're thinking about that. But I can read a graph, and I'm pretty sure that climate change is real.
Interest. They could stop denying it for economic reasons. Other countries are going to develop technologies for producing electricity, especially, that are going to outcompete you if you pretend it's not happening. But now, I don't think you're going to be able to run for office this next year's 2020, and certainly not in 2024, without a clear position on climate change. I say all the time, you guys, this next part, you can decide for yourself, but climate denialism is almost exclusively for old people. Very, very seldom meet a young person,
right,
a kid, a student, who is in denial about climate change. They're going to change things. I mean, they're not going to put up with this denialism if nothing else, because they can't compete internationally if they keep denying it.
Sunrise Movement.
So they're going to vote and change governments, and denialism will be a thing of the past. And you can draw all kinds of analogies from history, but this one's extraordinary because it's worldwide and it affects everybody. It's not just us versus them, it's us versus ourselves. And so I'm optimistic about the future. We have 12 years. So by 2031, you got to get something done, or this.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to, if you haven't seen the video with Michael Mann talking about, what the cycle looks like and how long we have, there's some interesting stuff there. I'll try to put a link there as well. But, I think that 12 years is a question mark. I don't think we know exactly how long, what that spectrum looks like. But isn't it better to be more conservative? Isn't it better for us to say, we only have 5 years before there's a disaster, so that people start to change their behavior sooner rather than later? And I think that Bill Nye is really right in thinking about that the youth aren't the people who are denying. People who are younger do not deny climate change is real. And as we think about what the community is going to look like as we move forward, as we start to have younger people take control of the system, as we have younger people start to take control of politics, we're going to see that this is going to be an issue of the past. And then people who are denying climate change today or don't think the impacts of climate change are impacting them aren't going to be in control or not going to be on the planet anymore.
Going to be a catastrophe for most of humankind.
All right, Bill Nye is a boss. Bill Nye is such a boss. That was amazing. Quick, succinct, tells people gets to the point, like tells people the truth. You know, maybe he isn't a scientist, but most of us aren't scientists. And I think that his approach for taking on climate deniers is one that's really inspiring. And so it encourages me to continue making videos like this. So if you're into this kind of thing, make sure to hit the like button and tell the YouTube robot to do its thing, and tell other people about this video, and so other people can see this video, and then they can hit the like button, and then we can continue this perpetually. And then if you've stuck around to this point, consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification so that you'll know whenever we're making new content, you'll be informed of what's going on. Thanks for your time, and see you next time on Measured Light.